today we have with us an old high school friend and now an old person who just retired from being a police officer. And I thought it would be great to have him on Dream Big, Pray Hard, Never Quit. 30 years as a police officer is just amazing. And I wanted to hear his story. We've kept up, more or less through Facebook and have run into each other here and there. So this is kind of my first time really talking to him in quite some time. So everybody, welcome Dusty Johnson. Thank you so much for being part of this video series.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you. Hey, as you kind of, as I've told you, you maybe hopefully seen a few of the videos. I just kind of let you go. You tell your story, and then I just interrupt you because that's what I'm good at doing. And
okay.
When I have a question or something, I go, hey, wait a minute. But I'm excited to hear this story. And I don't ask a lot of questions to begin with because I want people to see just, my reactions and everything as well, because I love to hear people's dream big stories. So, Dusty, go ahead with yours.
All right. Well, as you know, I grew up in Goldsboro, North Carolina. My parents still live there, my brother and my daughter and her family, my grandson, son-in-law, they all stay there still. So I grew up in the Sawston area and went to Eastern Wayne, where you and I met. Go Warriors. That's right. And after high school, pretty much all through high school, maybe even as early as junior high, I think it's middle school now. I always had a desire. I always wanted to be in law enforcement. I guess every kid at some point likes playing cops and robbers, and I just never grew out of it. I always wanted to be an officer and be involved in law enforcement somehow. My parents were great. They never really discouraged me or anything from that. When I told them what I wanted to do, of course, I'm sure they would have preferred that I did something else, just like I would if my kids had decided to do that. Exactly. But they never tried to really talk me out of it or discourage me. Matter of fact, they encouraged me and supported me while I kind of figured out what I was going to do. I'm
going to stop you right there just for a sec, because what your parents did is amazing. Absolutely. Because when I was teaching high school, I would see parents sit there and tell them, you can do whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, be whoever you want to be. And then when they decided they wanted to be something, oh, don't be that.
Yeah.
Why don't you go this way? This is a better career choice. This is something. And to me, that's taken away their purpose.
Yeah.
This kid wants to do something with their life, and this is what they want to do. And I think sometimes we mean well as parents, and we're trying to direct our children in the path that we think is best. But, what we think is best is not always the best. I would have never said, hey, Veronica, be a soldier, go defend our country, carry an M16, and let's see what happens. No, that's not, but she's got to live her life just like you had to live yours.
Right. I understand. Absolutely. I started, so after high school, I started taking classes at Wayne Community College. I was in the law enforcement technology program. I believe it's criminal justice program now is what it's called. But I wasn't old enough to go to basic law enforcement training yet, but that's all I wanted to do. So basically I just kept taking classes, and I was working part-time, had a couple of different jobs while I was going to school. Worked at the old Litchfield movie theater in Goldsboro.
One of our favorite spots growing up.
Favorite hangouts, yeah.
That's
absolutely. Right. Yeah, we always joked if we weren't working, we were hanging out there. So
that's right.
It also gave me time. I would take my books and stuff and study in the projector room while the movies were running and things like that. But when I eventually, when I turned 20, I was old enough at that time to go into basic law enforcement training. I think at that time you had to at least be 20 years old at the time you graduated from the program. So Miss Beverly
Is it
Dean,
21 now?
it may be 21 now, but
Because I think some of my kids went into it and they said they couldn't because they had to be 21. Now, I'm not sure.
yeah.
I was just asking.
Yeah, it could be. It's been 30 years, so probably
Right.
I'm sure some things have changed, yeah, over the years. But yeah. So talked to Miss Beverly Deans out at Wayne Community College. A lot of people know Miss Deans. She's been a staple in the law enforcement, criminal justice community for a long time, and talked to her and got all the details about it. She was the director of BLET at that time. And started BLET at Wayne Community College. Toward the end of the program, I was not hired when I started in BLET. A lot of members of our class were already hired and had jobs in law enforcement. Goldsboro Police Department had hired the majority of the students,
Right.
but there were a few of us, a handful of us in the program that had not been hired yet. A lot of agencies required you to be 21 to work for them. So that cut out Goldsboro for me and the sheriff's office and some other places because I said I was only 20. So toward the end of the academy, Miss Deans called me in and a couple other guys and said, hey, would you be interested in going to work for the Kitty Hawk Police Department? And I said, where is that? She said it's on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, Nags Head, Dare County, that way. I said, oh. So, we were like, yeah, sure. Go to work at the beach and be confident.
Exactly.
Yeah. 20 years old, absolutely. And so she made contact with them. Apparently they had reached out to some of the academies that they were looking for some officers. Their department was small, but it was expanding. So Sergeant Tony Garrett from Kitty Hawk Police Department came to Goldsboro and interviewed myself and I guess he wouldn't mind me saying, but Nick C. and Farrah. You remember Nick? We all went together.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and they hired both of us. And so we were already friends and we're going to BLET together. So we got hired together and we, upon graduation from, of course, it was all contingent upon us successfully passing BLET, which not everybody does. And we had a few that didn't, but fortunately we did. And then we took off to Kitty Hawk and went through a series or a whole hiring process with them, and we were accepted and put to work.
Now I remember Kitty Hawk 30 years ago.
Yeah,
and
it's a different place now.
Oh man, is it a different place now? I mean, just
Absolutely.
crazy big now.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you were there, yeah, it was much smaller than it is now.
Absolutely, it was. And I started in the dead of winter, and the local population. I don't really know the numbers now, but it's very small. They're very dependent on the tourists, and tourism. So there was nothing to do pretty much. We just we worked some traffic and rode around, and if we saw a car coming in the middle of the night, we got excited. And most of the time, it was another officer or a deputy or a trooper passing through or something. But
you were just waiting for summer, huh?
We were just waiting for summer, and we kept getting told, just wait. You're gonna wish it would slow down. And when the summer hit and the tourists came, man, it was unreal. It was kind of a baptism by fire then. We worked our butts off in the summer, and then you kind of relax a little bit in the wintertime. So
yeah.
But it was a great place, and I got a lot of good experience and learned a lot from those guys. And during that time, I was dating my wife. We were still, we were dating when I moved to Kitty Hawk, and didn't know how that would go. That's a long ways away, but
that is.
We stayed together, and then finally I figured, either I'm gonna have to go home to her or she's got to come here with me. So I asked her to marry me. We got married, and she moved to Kitty Hawk with me. And after a little while of that, of us living at Kitty Hawk, we were both homesick, wanted to come back, around family and friends and stuff.
Right.
And so I started looking around for positions back home, and the Mount Olive Police Department was hiring. So I applied there and got hired by Chief Larry Riggle. At that time, he was the chief of police in Mount Olive. Went and interviewed with him and got that position. And so we loaded up and moved back home to Wayne County. And I went to work in Mount Olive Police Department, which was a totally different environment than what I had been used to working in at the beach.
How old are you now?
I'm 50 now.
No, I mean, how old? My bad. How old were you when you went to Mount Olive?
When I went to Mount Olive, I would have been 22 or 23, I believe.
So you were only in Kitty Hawk, what, a year, maybe two?
About 2 years, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. And so we moved back, like I said, to Wayne County, and I started working in Mount Olive. And it was still a police department, but it was a totally different type of law enforcement than I had been used to working. There wasn't the tourist, and it wasn't it wasn't all a bunch of young kids drinking underage. There were a lot of, we had domestics and robberies and things that I had not seen working at a coastal community like I was.
Right.
So I learned even more working in Mount Olive than I had at Kitty Hawk, because it was more of a traditional small town setting, and where you got a little bit of everything going on. A lot of great people in Mount Olive, and I loved working there. And I worked there for about 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
So I really enjoyed my time in Mount Olive, and I enjoyed getting to know the people in the town and learning about the little funny things and quirks about the towns and different things. But it was a great experience.
At Mount Olive, you were there 8 years, so you got to know people. I mean,
yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
As a police officer, and you're still fairly young. I mean, you're 22 years old. What was it like? I mean, because I know being a police officer, there's certain things you got to do, but what was the stuff people didn't see that you did for the community? I hear you hear all right now, especially you hear bad things about police officers and stuff like that, and we'll get to that. But when you're in a community, especially like Mount Olive, because it's small, you get to know these people. They see your police car. Hey, Dusty, how you doing? And they get to know who you are. Just like here in Goldsboro or anywhere else. It's not like being in Raleigh or Charlotte or something like that.
No, not at all. Yeah. I don't know. Not really sure how to answer that. I will say that there's a lot of small things that were, looking back, maybe I wasn't so crazy about them, but I understand, the importance of now. We worked school crossings, making sure kids get across, little kids at the elementary that walked to school. A lot of them that did walk to school or got put out close to the school. We would get kids to school safely. That was a daily thing during the school year. We had to work school crossings in the morning and the afternoon. We had.
But now I guess you can look back and see, these kids see these police officers making sure they're safe and secure. And as, hopefully as they're getting older, they're starting, you want to put a positive vibe with police officers. Hey, we're here for your safety. We want to take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, being there 8 years, you saw some kids kind of grow up, and at times you saw them go the wrong way, and
right.
Really not a lot you could do about it. As a police officer, you couldn't really go into the home and take over the raising of a kid or anything.
Right.
So all you could do was talk to them and try to, what little interaction time we had, try to change things. I did get the chance to coach a little bit. I coached some kids baseball while I was there. You know,
Oh, that's cool.
And several other of the officers did the same things. Ralph Schroeder, who retired as chief of police there, he coached football, you know, youth football forever around Mount Olive. So a lot of the guys did that kind of stuff. We coached, and I signed up.
Becoming part of the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Did some mentoring at the schools, done some reading programs with kids, read to the kids, things like that. Things to try to, like you said, give a more positive image, you know, other than just what they might hear in the community or see on the news. You know,
Right.
Kind of show them that you know, that it's not as bad, you know, as it's made out to be sometimes.
And I think in a small community, that's got to be extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like I said, the community learns you, and you learn them. So, a lot of times, you know, the people you were going to answer calls at their house, they knew you by name, and you know, seen you around or been involved in other things that you were involved in. So, yeah, it's pretty tight knit community. Yeah.
So you were there for 8 years. What did you do after that?
So the late.
So now you're 10 years into your career, so you're close to 30-ish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got some experience underneath. Married for 7, 8 years. Maybe even have a kid by now.
That's right.
And
kid. Yep, absolutely.
And when that kid comes in, I'm sure it changed everything. Going, okay, I'm going out now. You know, it was bad enough knowing I have to leave my wife every day and never knowing what's going to happen. And now I've got a kid involved in this situation as well.
Absolutely.
What's that like? I mean, you hear stories about it and you hear stuff, but what's it like from your view, from a police officer's point of view? That kid, I guess you kind of get used to it, but it's still got to be unnerving.
Yeah. Well, I have a daughter and a son, and it was very different for both of them. My daughter was always much more, or seemed to be much more concerned about what I was doing and about my safety and things like that. Whereas my son, on the other hand, he was more, he liked the thought of being a police officer, and he thought it was much cooler than my daughter did.
Right.
Because he's younger too. So she was a little older and was understanding that things were dangerous. And, you know, my son, he wanted to hear about, you know, did you arrest anybody today, or did anything exciting happen? Yeah, he wanted to know about those kind of things. So he was more, I guess, into it than my daughter was. I think she would have been fine if I was, you know,
a school
garbage
teacher,
man or mailman or anything else, you know.
What about your wife? I mean, how is she dealing with this now?
Well, my wife, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I'm sorry. I'm on the interview right now. I'm sorry. Okay. My son has stopped by the house to get something. And okay. So you were asking about my wife, how my wife took things.
Yeah. How's she?
So fortunately for me, her father was a police officer, and she had grown up in a family where her dad put a uniform on every day, gun and badge, and went to work. And so, even though she did worry, you know, she worried about her dad and she worried about me, but it was not totally new to her. That environment was not.
She
totally
understood.
New to her.
She understood the concept.
She understood, and like I said,
I just lost you. There we go.
I'm sorry. Somebody was calling in. So, like I said, she was used to that. She still worried about me, but growing up, that's all she ever knew her dad to do. So, she knew what she was getting into. And it's funny because she said she would never, growing up, she said she would never marry a police officer because of her seeing her mom worry and
never say never.
Yeah, never say never. Right. But I mean, hey, look at this, you know.
I get it. I tell my wife the same thing.
Yeah.
2 lucky women, man.
That's right.
Now, it's funny because you married someone from high school, right?
Well, Michelle. She went to Eastern Wayne briefly, and then her
Right.
family moved to Rosewood.
Right.
So
But
that she
around the
actually
area.
graduated. Yes, she went to Rosewood High School and graduated from Rosewood. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know if you remember Marjorie. She graduated with us,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's who I ended
Yeah.
up. That's kind of funny how things like that happen.
Absolutely. Yes. So, but so yeah. So in I believe it was 1999. Sheriff Kerry Winters, late Kerry Winters,
Right.
he approached me. So I was working the Christmas parade in Mount Olive. At that time, I was lieutenant on the for the patrol division in Mount Olive. He approached me at the Christmas parade and asked if I was interested in a detective's position at the sheriff's office. And at that time, I'd been in Mount Olive for about 8 years. I was kind of at a place where I really wasn't much room for me to do or go anywhere else there. I had enjoyed it there, but I was kind of looking for a change, and that sounded like a good opportunity to me. So I said I would be interested in talking to him. So after Christmas, I went up and talked to him, and Major Glenn Odom and Captain Jerry Best, late Jerry Best. It's funny looking back now that two of the three people that I interviewed with that day are no longer with us, Kerry Winters and Jerry Best.
Right.
So yeah, so I interviewed with them, and they hired me as detective sergeant with the sheriff's office.
So what? So now you've been a police officer for 10 years, and
Yep.
now you're a detective. What's the difference?
Well, the biggest difference is you're not really out answering calls anymore. You're sort of you're showing up to crime scenes and incidents that have already occurred. Normally, I would say it's a lot less dangerous than first line police officer,
Right.
because they're the ones initially responding to the calls, and normally by the time the detective gets there, people may be in custody, and at the very least they've been checked, they're unarmed, and the incident's pretty well contained, and you have to come in and kind of put the puzzle together, figure out what happened, how it happened, why it happened, make charges, if necessary, to do whatever you have to do as a investigator. You're still a police officer. You just have to approach crimes from a different angle.
I've got a question for you, and we're totally kind of off subject here because this
Sure.
cracks me up. How many? Don't you have to give me a number, but I know from being in your position, someone gets a ticket that is a friend of yours.
Mm-hmm.
I saw your eyes roll right there. You answered my question, and they call you. Hey, how do I get out of this ticket? Hey, what do I need to do? Hey, I mean, how many times has that happened to you?
A lot. A lot.
Not
just me, but every, I think every officer goes through that.
So
yeah.
How annoying is that?
Well,
are they just scared?
I don't mind it so bad. I think the only time it really bothers me is if it's someone that I haven't talked to in years and years, and then all of a sudden,
Right.
Hey, I got a ticket in West Virginia. Can you help me? If we don't talk any more than that, then I'd rather you not call me just for that.
Right. I get it.
But it's not just things like that. A lot of friends and family members will call because they're having issues, or they want advice, that kind of thing, and I don't mind that. Their family, their friends, I love them, I care about them. I can't say or do anything that would be unethical, but I try to help them as best I can, and give any guidance or advice that I can.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Good answer. Good political answer. I like that. Way to go.
Thank you.
So I interrupted your story. So now you're a detective. How long were you a detective? How long were you here?
So I went to the sheriff's office in '99, late '99, and I started with license and theft. So in 2007. So from '99 to 2007, I was
About another 8 years. About
another
eight
8 years. Yeah, I was with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office.
So did that for 8 years. Now you're down, gracious, you're close to 30-ish. Although 99 you were close to 30ish. Now 8 years later you're knocking
Yeah.
on the door 45, 46, something like that. And
Yeah.
so you've been doing this for 20 something years at this point.
Right.
So police officer, detective, what was next?
So I worked in the General Detective Division for the Sheriff's Office. And then during that time, I got assigned to work what they call the SVU, Special Victims Unit, which I called it, we said unit, but at that time, there was two of us. So it was myself and Tammy Mazingo, who's still at the Sheriff's Office now. I believe she's a captain at the Sheriff's Office now. She and I were partnered up, and we worked, crimes, basically dealing with sexual assault victims, things like that. And did that for a little while.
Pretty good.
So I had always had a desire to work narcotics. I guess growing up, it sort of seemed like the really cool job in law enforcement. So I applied for that, sent a letter to the sheriff expressing my interest in that. And he allowed me to do that, to transfer over to the narcotics unit. And I worked narcotics until I left in 2007.
2007. Now, I haven't asked you a whole lot of questions about each phase because I don't know what you're allowed to say and what not you're allowed to say, like special investigations and the stuff you saw and how bad was it. Because I don't know what you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say, and I didn't want to put you on the spot.
Right.
I guess, and we kind of hit on it earlier. You've been an officer for 30 years, just retired, and again, congratulations.
Thanks.
What are your thoughts on the current environment that we see spreading around right now? And this is one of the main reasons I wanted you on here. One, I want people to hear your story, how it went, so young officers kind of know, hey, this guy, this is his path, this is what he did, and I want people to be encouraged by that. But I also wanted to get a veteran officer's opinion about the environment that's going on.
Yeah, well, I feel like a lot of what's happening right now has been manufactured. Not saying there haven't been some incidents, some really bad incidents. Obviously, the incident in Minnesota comes to mind. That was, I remember hearing about the video before I saw it.
Right.
The George Floyd incident, and I remember thinking it can't be as bad as people are saying. And then I watched the video, and I was just floored. I was shocked. I was shocked at just just how unconcerned those involved were about what was happening.
Right.
And it disturbed me. It disturbed, I don't know anyone in law enforcement. We talked about it at work, and I can tell you that nobody I worked with thought that was right, or that was justified, or it was the right thing. We all thought it was horrible. But you're talking about one officer, or if you include the ones that were there and present, a couple of officers in Minnesota out of the entire country. And for there to be such a backlash against the entire profession.
Well, and I'm going to tell you what people are going to say when they see this video. They're going to say, oh, that's not only that one incident, then they're going to start bringing up all these other incidents. And all I can say is no matter what profession you're in, there's bad apples.
Right.
You know, and is the media exploiting the bad apples and not
Oh,
exploiting
absolutely.
all the other stuff that cops do? Because I'm going to tell you something. I know a lot of police officers, and I've never really had an incident with any of them.
Yeah.
If I did what I was supposed to do, I didn't have an incident.
Yeah.
I just feel the environment, and don't get me wrong. Again, there have been some horrible situations, and I don't want to downplay those situations. But as an officer, how did that make you feel? What's the okay going into the going to work every day, knowing that people don't like you just because you're a cop? And one, not only you're a cop, you're a white cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you fear for your safety at any time?
I'll say I was more observant than normal. Normal things like, pumping gas or going into a convenience store or going into a restaurant. I've always been, I feel like I'm pretty vigilant about my surroundings. But after that incident, and like you said, other incidents that have occurred that have sparked a lot of outrage, I did find myself there toward the end of my career being very observant and probably more cautious than I normally was. And I would have people occasionally, I never really had anyone confront me about it. But we get the looks and the, like a disgust from people sometimes. But I will say this: since these incidents have happened, I have had more people come up to me and thank me for doing what I do and telling me that they support law enforcement and they support the police. Because I do think that the majority of people in this country do support the police. I don't think
I agree.
By any means the majority of the country thinks that the police need to be defunded or police forces reduced or crazy talk like that. Obviously nobody wants to see an incident like what happened in Minnesota again. And hopefully it doesn't, but it will. There's no doubt. I mean, it happened in.
Right.
I was an officer in 1992 when the Rodney King incident had occurred.
Right.
And a lot of young people don't even know what that was really now.
Right.
So, these things happen every so often, unfortunately, but you're dealing with human beings and human beings making decisions. And a lot of those decisions have to be made instantly, and that's something a lot of people I don't think understand. Take out the George Floyd situation, because that was a very unique, maybe that's not the best term for it, but But anyway, if you take that situation out of the equation, people trying to make decisions, watching the videotape, sitting in the comfort of your home, drinking a beer, watching TV, it's a little different. It's a whole lot different when you're actually out there and the incident is rapidly evolving and you have to make a decision within a split second or two that could affect your life or someone else's life. And I think people get caught up in, like I said, sitting back, watching TV and wanting to judge, what would people refer to as Monday morning quarterbacking.
It was so funny because I was sitting there thinking I was going to go, here's an example I can give, but I was sitting there thinking I don't want to trivialize the situation, so I didn't go there. So I'm glad you did.
Yeah, well, it's like me watching Tom Brady quarterback, and while I'm eating potato chips and criticize him for something he did or didn't do.
An interception. Yeah.
Yeah. Who am I? What position am I in to make that decision?
6 Super Bowl rings, and we're going to criticize him.
Yeah. But I'm going to decide what he should or shouldn't have done. That's easy to do. it's easy to do that, but is it really fair, to do? And it's not accurate. People can say, well, I would or wouldn't have done this or that, but until you're in that situation, you don't know what you would do.
Right.
And I can say the same thing, about many situations, even when it's another officer. It's hard for me, and in my position, where I had to supervise other officers, it's still, you have to take into consideration, I'm looking at this after the fact.
Right.
So,
right. Now, also, in saying all that, we see these cops that have unfortunately made some horrible calculations and mistakes. But yet there's police officers like you that in a span of 30 years, and I'm not saying I don't know, I'm sure somewhere along the line, maybe there was a mistake made. It wasn't that big or anything like that. But for people like you and for someone like me to look at someone like you, it's kind of and this guy has risked his life for 30 years, day in, day out, for my safety. And I think that gets lost in translation sometimes, because I have no doubt, even though we were we haven't talked a tremendous amount. We knew each other in high school. We were friends. But I could bet to this day, if you saw me in an accident or something was going on, you would have been there for me. And like I said, we barely knew each other. I mean, we knew each other well in high school, but since then, and as a police officer, that's your job. And
yeah, but now, in the same token, you would do the same thing. You're not a police officer, but if you saw someone in an accident, or I think a lot of that just has to do with being a decent human being. You want to help people, and you don't want to see somebody hurt or injured. So I appreciate that, and you're right. I would do that, but at the same time, I think you would too.
No,
and a lot of the people that we are friends with and associate with probably the same way.
Yeah. Now, how did your family and your friends react to everything that's going on in this environment when you were going out? I mean, because you probably dealt with it better than your family and friends.
Yeah, I'm sure I did. My wife was very concerned, probably more so than she had ever been, during this, recent time, so she was very concerned about me. My kids were concerned, my son would text me during the day, hey, just be careful, and my daughter would randomly text things, and, more so than normal.
Right.
My brother would call me occasionally and say, hey, are you okay? Are you involved in any of this stuff going on? Are you guys having to do anything special? And just be careful, that kind of thing. So yeah, my family and friends were much more concerned, or have been. I wouldn't say more concerned. They've been more vocal with their concern.
Right.
I would say during the last year, and they all knew that I was getting close to retirement, and I think they were just hoping and praying that I would reach retirement without being involved in some terrible incident right here before I retired.
Now, tough question here. Did you had 30 years in, so you could retire. Was the current environment one of the reasons you decided to retire at 30?
No.
Okay.
So my current position was with the state of North Carolina, and at 30 years, I could go out with full benefits, my retirement, my supplement, my insurance, everything. So there was really not much incentive to stay or to not retire. If there had been a huge financial incentive to stay, I would have stayed. But there wasn't, so it just seemed like the time to go. And absolutely, it didn't hurt my feelings that I was leaving, with everything going on like it is right now. But no, it didn't factor into whether I would or wouldn't retire.
So you've been retired what, 2 weeks?
was September 1st. So yeah, maybe
three
three
weeks,
weeks
somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is everyone in the family sleeping a little bit better now?
Maybe so. Maybe
So.
Yeah, I got a lot of phone calls, a lot of because of COVID, we really couldn't have a big blowout or anything. So, my captain at work, he put together a little something there. People were kind of passing through. We would have a few people in the office, and then they would leave, and a few more come in and leave, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, my family got a lot of phone calls, a lot of texts, a lot of people, reached out to me that were very, very glad that I was retiring. And, their biggest reason is because, like you said, of what the climate is right now.
Right.
And I, but I will say that we've not seen a lot. It seems to be more in the bigger cities in the West Coast and things like that. I live in Johnston County now, and people in Johnston County, for the most part, they're good people. They're hardworking people. Like I said, there's not many days I go to work when somebody doesn't come up and shake my hand and thank me for my service or something like that. So, other than the occasional bad look at a store or something, it really, I really got a lot more positive feedback recently than I have negative from the community.
So 3 weeks in, you decided what's next, or you just chilling out?
I have not decided what's next. Last week I took my family. We went on a big vacation up to the mountains, and that was very nice. It was nice not to have a phone, not to have a work phone strapped to me, not having to check emails and things. It was nice, but it was kind of strange at the same time. I'm used to, even on vacations, kind of having to keep up with what's going on at work or field calls and things like that. So that was strange, but it was nice.
Yeah.
And, I'm definitely going to do something else. I don't know right now what I'm going to do. I'm looking at some different things, but I'm kind of excited about what's next.
Well, I want to thank you for your service. I know it's got to be a tough job. And I definitely could not have done it. I am not cut out for something like that. You have to be you got to be a special person to do what you did, and to do it for 30 years is absolutely amazing. So not only thank you to you, but thank you to your family for allowing you to go out there and risk your life every day for the safety of others. So Dream Big, Pray Hard, Never Quit is extremely proud of you, even though you just cut me off.
I think my phone's trying to die on me now.
But thank you so much for your service and
RJ.
for being part of this video series. You're going to be able to reach some people, and they're going to hear your story. And I wanted to get a police officer's point of view of what it was like to be an officer, go through the ranks, and then in the current climate or environment that we're in now. And I really appreciate you being part of this.
Thanks, RJ. I appreciate you asking me to do this, and I've enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you. Guys, hey, everybody, big thank you again to Dusty. And remember to always dream big, pray hard, never quit.